So welcome everybody to our ADHD support group meeting, May the 10th, 2023. And tonight we've got Anita, who's an ADHD coach, and she's going to be talking about the wise mind. My name is Tracy Pinder. I'm an ADHD coach. I am ADHD 2, and I love my neurodiversity. I embrace it. I've learned the skills. I coach the skills. And I live the skills. So we can manage our lives. There is hope at the end of the tunnel. Graham?
I'm Graham. I'm also ADHD and a life skills coach. Not much to say. I enjoy helping people that, help people with ADHD make things not so difficult for them.
Oh, Tash?
Hi, I'm Tash, and I also have ADHD, and I'm the mom to an ADHD daughter. And I think it's just about creating awareness around ADHD and a more positive experience around that, and the support and the structure to go with it.
Cool. Would any of our guests like to introduce themselves? No pressure. We're just all staring at you. Okay, then I hand it over to you, Anita, if you can do your intro and then start our support group. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Trace. So hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anita. I am also a life skills coach. I studied under Tracy at the School of Life, and I spent a lot of time with her as her shadow. So everything I know is...
She's coming back.
I'm coming back. I'll be back. I need some more. Yeah. So I worked closely with Tracy and Dr. Jiva. I followed them around for an entire year and just absorbed everything I could from them. I'm so grateful to have learned and experienced that. It gave me so much insight into my own ADHD. So I knew I had it, but I didn't really realize the implications of it. Only when I had a breakdown in 2016 and the wheels fell off and I just couldn't manage my life anymore. So I found Tracy, luckily, and I started learning about the skills, learning about my brain, implementing the skills. And I haven't looked back. Yeah, I'm able to, it's not perfect every day. You do hit wobblies. It's never going to be smooth sailing. But it's just about building that scaffolding around you, building the systems. So there's nothing, you've got an incredible brain. You've got a fast working, incredible brain. So Dr. Hallowell says, Ferrari brain, bicycle brakes. So your brain it's like a Ferrari. It's beautiful. It works well. It's just, we just don't know how to stop, take a breath, plan our lives. So it's just about harnessing the brakes and tweaking your life around you. That's what I've learned. I also work at a psychiatric home. So I'm learning about all different disorders. So in abnormal psychology. And a lot of the skills that we apply for ADHD can apply to schizophrenia, bipolar. So they're all so good. They work together so nicely. Okay, so today we're going to be speaking about the wise mind. So Trace, I don't know where you've gone. You seem to have disappeared. You can just let me share screen.
No, you can share screen. Sorry, my dogs are making a noise. That's why we're talking.
Oh, there we go. I'm doing it. Sorry. There we go. Okie dokes. Let's start. So ADHD and the wise mind. So there's a concept that's called wise mind, and I'll share with you who developed it and where it came from. But what you have to know is that our mind moves between the sorry, can you put your, Linda, can you just put your mute on your speaker off? I think there's noise in the background. Oh, whoever else has got their speaker. I'm just picking up noise. Thanks, guys. Okay. So your mind operates from 3 different states and shifts between the 3. So you've got your rational mind, which is your voice of reason. It's that logical, methodical, task-focused, that focused mind. Then you've got your emotional mind, which is governed by your feelings and your behavior. So that's when people say you're very emotional and you're impulsive. So people who govern from their emotional mind wear their heart on their sleeve. They are mood dependent. They are ruled and governed by their feelings and urges. So if they are sad, you will see that they're sad and you will hear that they're sad. If they are happy, you will see it on their face. They don't wear that mask. So it's very obvious. Their feelings are expressed well. The wise mind is the balance between the 2. So it's honoring your feelings, looking at things rationally from a rational perspective and merging them together. So wise mind was developed by an American psychologist. Her name is Marsha Linehan. She is the creator of DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. So it combines cognitive restructuring with acceptance and mindfulness. So she developed this after she was diagnosed with schizophrenia and borderline personality disorder. So she's got a double diagnosis of 2 personality disorders. So imagine this lady, these are major disorders, and she actually managed to not only pull herself out of the adversity, but she created a system that so many people use. It's so widely known, it's so effective, and especially with borderline personality disorder, they with that disorder, the DBT skills are the most effective. And she believes that all humans, we all have a wise mind. We all have the capacity to operate. It's there. We just need to learn how to recognize it, listen to it, acknowledge it, and apply those 2 mindsets, merging them together. So we all have it in us. It's just how do we learn to do it? So if we look at ADHD, if we look at the symptoms of ADHD, you can see it's we very much operate from that emotional mind. So we have something called emotional dysregulation. So that's part of the executive functioning system. One of those executive functions are down. They don't work as well. In a neurotypical person, that system is fine, but because of the shortage of dopamine, that executive system is not operating at full capacity. So that's why we struggle to regulate our emotions. So you'll see ADHD people are more impulsive. We struggle with anger. We have emotional reactions, and they seem distorted and out of sync to actually what happened. Like people will say, it's not really such a big deal. And you're like, no, it is a big deal because it feels like a big deal. So we are more sensitive and we feel things more intensely. And we struggle to calm ourselves down, seem insensitive or unaware of emotions to others. So those are almost exactly the same as operating from the emotional mind. So that's why this is such a great skill for ADHD, because it's something that we are already struggling with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break out into rooms. So I think each coach, let's have a look at who's with us. Each coach can maybe take a group.
Anita, why don't we just do it as a group discussion?
We just do it as a group discussion, right? Because there are not many of us. Yeah, that's better.
We're a small group.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So just get a pen and paper ready, and you can just write down, or you can share your experience. There's no judgment. No one's going to say, oh, my word, what the heck is that? We all struggling with the same thing. There's absolutely no judgment here. So I want you to think about an experience in your life where you feel you've operated from that emotional state. So where you have felt the intense feelings, maybe you've hyper-focused, maybe you met someone and you had a crush on them or whatever, and you feel like, oh, you're in love with them, and it's only been a week. So it's those situations where it's like your feelings are just flooding, and or maybe you've gotten upset with someone. We struggle with rejection sensitive dysphoria. So maybe somebody said something like, oh, you look tired, and you really didn't appreciate it, and that anger just flooded your system, and maybe you retaliated, or you impulsively gave it back to them. So think of times in your life and just write down a little short description. So fight with my friend, just a short little description. I want you to then say, once you've got that situation, I want you to just write down what happened and how did you react? What were your behaviors? So what was the situation and what was your reaction? Did you yell? Did you sulk? Did you scream? Did you ignore the person? So what was your actual reaction? Okay, so once you have that, I want you to think about if you could go back and apply a rational mind. And it's not easy because it doesn't come naturally. So what you can also do is, if you know of somebody who you feel is very level-headed. So I would always, we've got a lady that works at the Bell House. Her name is Rika. And she's one of our staff members. And to me, she is the most even-tempered, rational person that I've worked with. And often, if I've had a situation at the Bell House and somebody has said something and I've got that reaction, I will go to her and I'll say, Rika, this is what happened. Am I overreacting? And she'll say, okay, yes, you are, or no, okay, I think that was wrong. So it's always good to bounce those ideas off of someone who has that mind. And that also helps you develop that mind, because you have that person in your mind and you'll say, what would they say? What would a Rika say? Maybe it's a parent or a sibling that you have. They can be your voice of reason. It's the same thing. Because it is difficult to find and trust that wise mind with ADHD. So just write down a short sentence of what, if you were in your rational mind, what would it look like? What would the situation look like? And what do you think would have happened differently? You can also look at a person who's not involved and not emotionally attached. So I like to use my example of Rika, but also somebody who's not related to the situation. That can be your rational mind. What would they say? If somebody else had to look at this and who doesn't really know you, is not involved. And then what would your wise mind have said? So we've also got to honor our feelings. I think it's important to say, that triggered me. that made me upset. I don't like when feelings are pushed down or minimized. So I think if you've got the ADHD and the feeling is coming up, I think it's important to honor it and then describe it. This is anger, this is resentment, this is jealousy, this is rage. I think naming it and then taming it works really well. And then you can come to that wise mind. You know, I feel this way. Okay, but in that situation where I'm with in a group class with clients, for example, is it wise for me to retaliate and pick that person out for saying that in front of, you know, colleagues or in front of a group? So you're honoring your feeling. Okay, I didn't like that, but what is the correct response? And this takes practice. It takes a lot of practice and time. So it's being patient with yourself. So that is it. So what I want to do is I just want to open up the floor to you guys. This is a support group. So I think the more we share our experiences, the more we can learn. So if anybody wants to start and just take us through the situation where you experienced that emotional mind, and then take us through the questions. You know, what happened? How did you react? What would happen if you applied rationality, your rational mind, or if you had spoken to someone else who's not involved in the situation? And then what do you think your wise mind would have said? Who'd like to start? Tracy Pinder.
I actually can't even think when last.
Yeah, you haven't done it in a while.
No, when last I was actually emotional.
Yeah. No, you really good. Like you don't, yeah, you really do it well. Tash, you had your hand up.
I can start.
Thank you, Tash.
If you want.
Thank you, Tash.
So a few weeks ago, I was out for dinner with my auntie, and the dinner special came with a free bottle of wine, and I'm not drinking anymore. So I was being very surreptitious in that I just filled my glass a little bit, and then I kept filling her glass. And so I think she was ticking a little bit on a little bit too much wine, but that's not an excuse. And we ended up talking, and she really, really, really triggered me because there were some things that were coming out of her mouth which were just really not okay. And one of the things that she said to me was that she just felt so sorry for me because, you know, growing up, you know, my mom was so preoccupied with my brother that, you know, there was very little space left for me. And then, of course, my sister, who's adopted, came along, and she's older than me. And, you know, that left even less space for me. And, you know, I was always pushed to the side and ignored. And I was like, but it wasn't like that. Like, I remember growing up and I never felt like that, you know. And she's like, well, that's how it was. And I got really, really angry because I just felt unheard. And I felt that she was trying to rewrite my history. And, you know, there's this misconception because, you know, I was a child and she was an adult. So have I all this time misconceived the situation? But I was the one living the situation. So surely I would know better. So it brought up a whole lot of stuff for me. And so my rational mind probably would have been like, I'm curious why you say that. And my wise mind would have been like, that makes me feel unheard and angry. And I'm curious to the response that you're looking for from me. Because why would you say something like that? It's just such a weird, a confrontational thing to say. Like, why would you say that to somebody that they weren't loved or appreciated as much as their siblings? I'm not feeding her wine anymore. We're going out for dinner again. She's getting one glass. That's it. One glass. That's my wise mind, okay?
Thank you, Tash. Thank you so much. So she was operating from her emotional mind. You know,
Her drunk mind.
I think, yeah, if she had taken that step back to say, this is my opinion, but is it really my place? You know, maybe she also presumed that you felt that way. Like her perspective of it was that it was so clear. But, you know, your perspective was like, well, what are you talking about? So it's all about perspectives as well. But I mean, you know, I think it's just, yeah, it's about scanning what you're going to say before you say it, which is difficult. So yeah, but thanks for sharing.
It takes a level of awareness that I think a lot of people don't have. You know, there's a level of self-awareness that I think you need to have when you're engaging as to like what you're saying, the potential impact that it could have on somebody, and also what is the driver for you saying that? Like,
Yeah,
what is the reaction that you are trying to achieve? You know, like, you know, are you trying to raise awareness in the other person? Are you? I don't think she had thought any of that through. I think it was just, you know, and you know, and that is her belief. You know, that is her belief system. So, you know, but it was just really confusing.
And I mean, hurtful, because yeah, confusing and then hurtful, and at least you felt that feeling, and you know, you're hurt, but you know, rationally. And that was a good way of reframing it. Yeah. Would anybody else like to go?
So can I just ask Tash, so how have you closed that off in your mind?
So it was a really interesting one for me because, oh, am I on mute still?
No, you can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. It was a really interesting one for me because like that night, like I rationalized it that, you know, I know what my history is. And even if it was like that, I never felt like that. So, you know, I had a great childhood, you know, I did feel loved. And if I've overwritten my memories of my childhood, you know, so successfully that I think I had a great childhood when I didn't, well then, you know, hats off to me. That's a skill in itself, you know. Yeah. But it was really interesting because I was putting the kids to bed a couple of weeks later. And one of the kids told me that they felt that I didn't love them as much as their sibling. And, you know, obviously we had a conversation with them about it, you know, it was all about what was it? I think the amount of time that I take to put each kid to sleep, they timed it.
Wow.
But like when I came to bed, like I was really triggered about the whole thing, and I was really triggered about my aunt again. And I think I'd kind of subconsciously linked the two situations together, you know, because now it was reflecting in my parenting, which I didn't want it to do, you know. So, and I think it's just, you know, there needs to be clarity, you know, like there had to be clarity for me about what my childhood was like and what my experience was like. And I didn't feel that, you know, my brother was terminally ill. So as a child, so like he did get more attention, and, you know, everybody loved him more because it's different when you grow up with somebody who's terminally ill. You do love them more because your time is shorter, you know, and he needed more attention, but he had a lot more limitations, you know, and I think everything's just a trade-off, you know.
So that's your rational, that's your wise mind, and that's how you are processing it. So that's like the reason and logic coming in.
So I think
very good.
It's important that we always know the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we saying what we're saying? And then what meaning are we attaching to what the person is saying? Because that's according to our own map of the world. So it was good, Tash. That's exactly what you did. You're thinking, why? Why are you saying this? What do you want from this?
Yeah.
You know? And that, again, 100% is all about self-awareness, because so many people aren't self-aware and they're automatic pilots. And that's where our growth comes from. When we're self-aware, we self-reflect, we self-correct, we self-manage. And well done. That's really awesome, because it really could have peed you off to an extent where you don't want to see her again. But you were able to put it box and say, okay, you know what, you're not aware. I'm not making excuses for your behavior, but yeah, sure.
And no more red wine for you.
100%. No more. That's it. Done. And you were
No
actually
more.
able to come out of it being okay. And at the end of the day, it's all about how we come out of things, and we still being able to maintain our peace and joy, regardless. I mean, that's the aim in life. So we can't control what other people say and do, but we can control the meaning we give things, and, you know, understanding more about our reactions to things and the meaning we give things that can keep us in that space. So well done, Tash. That's huge. Because you answered an important person in your life.
Yeah, not anymore. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
That's
Would
cool.
anybody else like to share their experience? Take us through the situation, and then describe how you would go through the states, which state you went through, and if you had to look back, how would you apply your wise mind?
Mm.
Anyone?
Okay,
Hi, everyone.
Jess.
Go for it, Jessica.
Great, Jessing.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Next way.
Ooh, okay. Let's get all the piggies in a row and the heart calming down. Okay, I don't know if I've told Tracy this before or something, but I've had this problem with my HR manager for the past couple of years now, and it hasn't changed at all. But I've tried to just brush it off, but sometimes I just, sorry? Yeah, but it just still kind of emotionally still works on me. So what still happens is, yeah, he became my manager, but he has got no clue how a payroll works. So I taught him everything he knows. And then he goes around telling everybody how incompetent I am. So every now and then he sends out mails about my work. It still happens to this day. Every single month, there is an email that goes out to everyone, managers, bosses, everyone. He has to find a problem with my work that tells the people I am incompetent. So that just still works on me emotionally. So sometimes I can ignore it. Other times it just gets too much. But it's hard. It's still very hard to just walk away. So I get very angry, very emotional. So my first response is anger, always anger. And then I feel like I want to type a very angry reply to him. And then I sit and I think about it, and I'm like, okay, maybe that mail is just going to make everything worse. So I just step away and just go rant about it to someone else. And then they're like, okay, just calm down just for a while. Just think about it, because it happens every single month. Just brush it off basically, and just take it from who it comes from. Because not one of your other managers or bosses has said anything about it. They haven't called you in for a disciplinary hearing yet, so nobody cares. So he doesn't have anything to stand on, so just ignore it basically. So I'm trying actually just to ignore it. But yeah, the wise mind haven't said anything to me yet. That one hasn't worked yet.
Thanks, Jess. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to hand this over to Tash. I think you'll give a good perspective. I can hear you in my wise mind, I know you're going to say something that's going to be effective.
Sorry, I was struggling to find my mute button. So sorry about that, guys. So Jessica, that sounds very frustrating and it sounds upsetting, and I can completely hear from your point of view how how that would upset you, and it doesn't sound like a fair situation, because the thing is that if there is a problem with something that you're doing, if he was a good leader and a good manager, he would sit you down and deal with it in a positive manner so that it could be a learning experience for you. Because look, none of us are perfect. I get things wrong all the time at work.
Yeah.
And my team gets things wrong at work, and that's how we learn and we grow, and it's not about being perfect at all. It's absolutely okay to get things wrong. What's not okay is to deal with it in a manner that he does seem to be dealing with it. So has he ever spoken to you about any of the things that he then raises in a public forum?
No, but the problem is my work is not wrong. That's the thing. What I'm doing is actually correct and it's not wrong. But yeah, that's what I'm getting. It's
Okay.
not, yeah.
So he's
My work is
deceiving
not
it
wrong.
or making it look wrong, but it isn't wrong.
That's it. He's
Yeah.
making it look wrong. He's trying to find problems where there are none.
Okay. And have you thought about what could be his driver with regards to that? Like what would the reason behind that be? Is it that he maybe feels a bit insecure, or?
Yeah, I think that's more the problem, that he's feeling insecure, that he's not actually understanding the work that he's supposed to do. And he's just trying to put me in a bad light to make himself feel better, maybe. And I don't know, just maybe trying to get me fired or something. I've got no idea. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
I've been doing the work that he's supposed to be doing much longer than he has been doing it.
Yeah. And have you had and you said you're too scared to have a conversation with him?
Yeah, me and the financial manager both sat down together and all three of us had a conversation about this, and it went good for about a month. And then after that, it just went back to the way it is now. And we both said our piece, and yeah, it went good for a while, and now it's just back to the way it is before.
And what did he say when the three of you sat down? What did he say?
Yeah, because he also used to talk to me in very vulgar language as well, and vulgar language, and did not treat me with respect or anything like that. So they talked to him with regarding to that as well. So that went better as well. He treated me a bit better, and that went good, and that went away completely, at least. But according to the other stuff, that just keeps going on and on and on. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Jessica, it doesn't sound like it's a good situation, that. And it sounds like you need to do something about it. And, I understand that that's scary, but it sounds like the financial manager is happy to be the mediator and happy to stand there. And what you need to do is, when you have the session, you need to make sure that it's documented and that everybody signs and agrees that this is what happened in the session. And then what you guys do is, maybe in the beginning you have a 2-weekly session where you meet every 2 weeks in the beginning, and you just align and understand how is it going. And then maybe when things go better, then you can deal with it you can have a monthly check-in, a couple of monthly check-ins until there's a behavior change, because it's not okay for him to treat you in that manner. Not in a work environment, not in any environment, but for me, particularly in a work environment, it's not okay.
Exactly.
So you know, and you don't need to put up with that at work. You don't need to be working in a space of fear or where you're worried about your job, you know, because somebody is being like that with you. You know, so you handle it in a proactive way. And I think one of the things that you need to be clear about in the sessions is that you're very open to learn. And if there are things that as a manager, he would like you to be doing differently or working differently, because look, we all get into habits of the way that we work. And, you know, before he was your manager, maybe you were doing things in a certain way. And now that he's your manager, he wants you to be doing them slightly differently, but he hasn't communicated it properly. And that's why he's saying that you're not doing things. So it's just about creating that alignment and just, you know, being very clear about what his expectations of you are. And so that you can, you know, it can be documented and you can say, but I am meeting these expectations. And also what your expectations of him are, which are very simple. Don't use vulgar language. Be nice.
Exactly. But we've done that. Like I say, we've gone through
Okay.
all the steps. We've done
But then, you
things.
know, do you have
yeah,
and he's the HR manager.
Yeah.
Why is it always the HR manager? Seriously, I don't get it. Why are they always the problem ones? Like what is it? Is it like a special like personality requirement? You need to become the HR manager. It's like, you know, but it's crazy. Like I've seen it before, you know. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, I would just have regular meetings, just to keep that alignment. And I mean, as long as, you know, what what the expectations of you to perform in your job are clear and documented, and you regularly meeting and aligning on the fact that you are performing those tasks, and you've got the finance manager in there, just, you know, in the beginning as a mediator, like just to keep everything objective. Or you can, if there's Zoom meetings, you can record the meeting. You know, it's just so that if there is ever anything further down the line, you've got that portfolio of evidence. You know, and also it means that you can track it regularly and you can tweak as you go along, because, you know, none of us are perfect. He's not perfect either, you know, and all of us are on a journey in order to become better people. You know, it just takes some of us longer than others. You know, so he's on a longer journey.
Yeah,
but
I
good
mean,
luck,
because I've
Jessica.
been with the
I think you're going to be great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tash, and thanks, Jess, for sharing. Yeah, I think that was great advice. So, you know, that person, that mediator can be that wise mind, that person who's not emotionally attached. And then you've got evidence. It's like, okay, well, this is clear. I mean, you've got all the documents in place. So yeah, that was good advice. Samsung SMA536E, your hands up.
I think that might be me. Sorry, the name didn't show up. Hi, everybody. It's my first time on the call, but I was planning to just sit in and listen. But noting the topic that you have here, I could do with a bit of advice. It's a lot more trivial than the examples given to date. Relates to my daughter. She's just turned 10. And this weekend we celebrated her birthday by taking her and two friends to a painting cafe. And she'd been painting for about almost 3 hours and made a slight error on a duck. I think the eyeball wasn't perfectly round, and had a complete and utter meltdown. I mean, she was throwing all drama and she couldn't calm herself. So I, being rational, started to engage with her. And now I can see the picture that you're painting, you know, the emotional mindset versus the rational mindset. So you start with, well, it's not that bad, really. And then she says, no, it's dreadful, it's awful. Then you start with, well, wait for it to dry, paint over it and do it again. No, it's ruined, it's over. Then you try a different approach. Or get you another duck to paint, you know. No, I don't want another duck, I want that duck. And slowly but surely I realized rational wasn't going to work here. So then I decided, okay, well, let's bring it down to calmness. Let's try rainbow breathing. Let's try distraction. Let's try. And eventually, I don't know, I wasn't getting through. What advice do you have to take an emotional person who's only 10 and get her into a, what do you call the wise mind state?
I'm going to hand this over to Graham because he's got daughters and I think he's the perfect person to answer this. Take it away.
I think that when kids, when my daughters get to that state, it's because they can't actually, they have no idea of, it's all they can see. They've got a kind of tunnel vision where they can't pull themselves out of it. They don't have the equipment to separate themselves from what they're focused on. So when, I don't know if she was having like a temper tantrum or crying, my daughter gets to a stage where she cries so hard she's like gasping for breath. So what I've found is works, it happens at bedtime is I told her never send a crying child away from you because what are you teaching them if they're feeling their emotions and you don't want any part of it. So give your kid a hug and take them out of the situation. So I usually pick up Han, take her out into the garden, console her, and then I say, "Oh shit, what's that?" I trick her. I say, what is that? What did you hear? What did I hear? And then, she has to stop crying because she wants to know what's going on. And then you can ask, then you turn it into a mindful exercise. So you can say, "Oh, it's the highway. What else can you hear, my darling? I can hear a bird and I can hear crickets and I can hear the neighbors fighting next door and and it just pulls it's a kind of mindful exercise that you can use with a kid to pull them away from what's that intense emotional reaction where they can't actually see the wood for the trees. And you do that until they're a bit settled. They have their breath back. They can talk to you rationally and say, "All right, what is the problem now?" And then talk them through it. Okay, your duck is got a wonky eye, but maybe the duck is squints. Maybe that's all right. Or, have a conversation about it. See if they can't come up with their own solution to what the problem is, because you saying, "Well, we'll fix it," or "We'll do this," or "We'll get you a new duck." It's too many options. And it's stopping them from being able to express their disappointment and stopping them from being able to try and solve it for themselves, because that's what they actually want to do. Because if you give me a solution, chances are my oppositional defiance is going to flare up and I'm going to not want anything to do with it, even if it is the right one. And if that helps, it's what works for me.
Thanks,
Your-
Graham.
Graham, to your last point there, it's so very true. Nothing I say or suggest or any ideas are the right ones. I 100% agree with you there. And to the end of the story, once she had decided that the deformed duck was still cute and lovable, she loved it anyway. But she had to get to the point where she still loved the duck as it was. Replacing it or fixing it wasn't an option. So you're totally right. That idea of what can you see, what can you touch, what can you smell, what can you feel, that worked for quite a while when she was young. But as she's getting older, it stops working. So that whole
my daughter's only 7, so I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, 10 is a tough one. 10 is a tough one. Wait, it's coming. But to that point, I think you're right. I must just not try and give her a solution, but just ask her what the way forward is from her perspective. But I just thought if anyone had any tricks on how you can get them there faster, because to go through that whole emotional thing can be quite distraught for friends who look at it and it's like, "So what, Rachel? It's just a duck." I did remove her from the friends for a while, just so they didn't have to
taking
witness
her out of the situation. Just if it's a walk around the car park or just something to get her away.
We went to go wash the paint off our hands. So that I said, "Excuse us, we're going to go wash the paint off our hands." Went to the bathroom, washed the paint off, let her do all the emotional, and then came back. Okay, as you say, I think it's just letting her find her way there. Then thanks.
Sorry.
Graham, thanks, guys. Anybody else? Have we got time? Let's check the time. We've still got a few minutes. Does anybody else have a situation that they want to run through with us? We can help you figure out how to use your wise mind, or does anybody have an experience that they'd like to share? Maybe where they did use their wise mind.
Ah.
Okay, well, should we end it off, Trace, or
Thank you,
play
Anita.
again? Mrs. Brown.
No, thank you, Anita. That was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and it's so true. We just need to come back to ourselves. So our gut always knows our inner truth, but we're so busy paying attention to everything else, we don't pay attention to ourselves. So just becoming self-aware is the biggest advantage to learning to direct ourselves. You've got a hand up, Anita.
Yeah, Kanya, you can take yourself off mute.
Hi. Hi, it's not necessarily about it relates to the topic. I had a question about the general thought, because in the beginning, you mentioned that the general belief is that our brains are not broken. They are just interestingly designed, right? And I think my question is just about, where does this group stand about considering ADHD as a disability? You know, that's my question.
Grace, do you want to take that
Yeah,
one?
in the DSM-5, it is diagnosed as a disability, but I like to think of it as a different ability. We just have a different brain, and we need to learn to understand our brain and then manage it. So that's definitely my take on it. It's diagnosed as a disability, but it's not. It's a different ability. And you can take it, and you can actually, the most successful people are ADHD. They've just learned to understand their brain and manage their brain.
Yeah, some
So
people say superpower.
We just need to learn to understand, okay, so this is where I'm struggling. These are my obstacles. These are my challenges. And then find skills and tools to actually work. And that's where the life skills coaching come in. And that's where it was designed. It was designed from my struggles for years and years, and my mess. So learning that, okay, this mess can actually become a message, and mastering it. But it's just working on our brain health, becoming aware. So the whole process with the coaching is you become self-aware. When you're self-aware, you self-reflect. When you reflect, you correct, and then you manage. So it's a different ability. It's definitely not a disability.
Thanks, Trace.
Tanya, does it answer your question?
I think it does. It does. I do have to say I disagree just a little bit.
Sure.
I fully understand the approach, though, and I do respect it. You know? The reason why I wanted to ask is because I wanted to start sharing, and I wanted to see what the framework of the group was, because I find I should say that I sometimes find great comfort in calling it a disability, because there are certain, as you said, challenges that are, can be considered quirky. However, they can be quite, as you say, they can create a mess, right? But quite a catastrophic mess.
Yep.
Even with continuous attention to your self-awareness and management. One cannot manage yourself. I have not been able to manage myself out of some of the states that ADHD, creates. So yeah, but thank you for telling me.
So when we talk, I'm years ahead of my mess. So you'll find that a lot of the School of Life coaches who are ADHD have all been in that mess, and it's taken a process. It's not, and it continues to be. It continues to be a journey. This is not a destination. And we take 2 steps forward and we take 1 step behind. But the whole thing is, it's a skill, it's a life skills approach. It's a practical life skills approach. It's very different to traditional therapy, in the sense that we need to learn to teach ourselves how to manage ourselves better. So it is definitely, and all of us, you ask Graham, Tash, Anita, me, all of the coaches who are ADHD and ASD, it's been a journey. So it's not an overnight thing. It really is not an overnight thing. So if you're still struggling, that's okay. But the whole thing is just keep on progressing, become more aware, educate yourself, and take the practical life skills and utilize those, because those are the ones that's going to help you. 1% better every day. In 365 days, you're going to be a lot more than 365% better. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah, we've got amazing medications and skills. So ADHD is one of the most treatable disorders in psychiatry. The medication is one of the most effective medication. They say, I think it was 91% of people who are on medication are normalized. So those negative symptoms. So we've got the best medications. It's just that it's either misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. And then it changes from childhood to adulthood. So then it's not picked up. People think you grow out of it, but it's there. It just it presents differently.
Kanya, can I ask you, are you exercising?
Yeah, I'm an avid weightlifter.
Okay, because that in itself is one of the best treatments for ADHD.
Yeah.
Is your dopamine, because we're dopamine scavengers, we need dopamine. So if you're exercising, that's already helping yourself a lot. But it is a different way. It's accepting that this is my brain is different, because our brains are different. Understanding how our brain is different, and then learning the skills to master the different brain. And being kind to yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'll think about what you guys have said.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Any questions, you can pop us a mail as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, our guests. Thank you, our coaches.
Thanks, everyone.
And we hope to
Have
see
a great night.
Yeah, have a good night. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.